So let me ask you what you think Saudi Arabia is going to do and why you think Iran is targeting Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amanpour. It's always good to be back with you. I watched the first section of your show, and it was very informative on the American side of what is happening. The kingdom has plainly stated its rejection of all of the Iranian activity that is taking place in the area, not only against Saudi Arabia, but against the whole Gulf states and even farther afield. As you mentioned in your former section of the event, even Turkey has been, at least a missile went into its airspace. So the dangers of expanding and widening the conflict exist at the moment. And there has to be a stop to it. Unfortunately, I don't think that the bombing campaign that the Americans and the Israelis have begun is going to put a stop to that. Whatever information I have, which I gleaned from published accounts and statements from officials, is that the Iranians are pretty well stocked with missiles and drones and have been preparing for this kind of eventuality, not only by the time of the last conflict in June, but even from before that. So we're in for a long haul, if you like, not just on the American side, but also on the Iranian side. One thing I must make clear, Ms. Amanpour, is that here in the area we're facing two agendas. Both of them apocalyptic. One from Israel, which is the Greater Israel agenda. This has been talked about by Netanyahu and by other Israeli officials. Israel wants to expand from the Nile River to the Euphrates. And the other one, of course, is the Iranian agenda, which is the return of the absent imam who disappeared something like 7 or 8 centuries ago, and he will come back and make the world a peaceful place and prepare for the coming of Christ. The third agenda that is affecting us and which has impact in the United States and in other places is the Christian Zionist agenda, which wants to see a return of the Messiah and the existence of Israel in their theology and their terminology is necessary for that to happen. So we are, if you like, in the middle of these three agendas that are operating to expand their vision onto the rest of us. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of course, works with its Gulf allies to try to put a stop to all this bloodshed and carnage that is taking place.
I just want to pick up on what you said about the apocalyptic visions, because you've mentioned, from the Israeli perspective, from the Iranian perspective, and from the American perspective. And in fact, this week, there have been reports and complaints by many American officers and soldiers through their chain of command about being told that U.S. troops war on Iran is part of Armageddon. So that's what they have been told in some of their units and in some of their bases by their commanding officers. So that goes to what you just said. But I want to ask you this. The Washington Post has reported that your Crown Prince, MBS, was privately urging Trump to actually attack Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia denies this, but what do you think? There's no love lost between Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's clear that everybody, including Gulf states, including the US and Israel, thought that Iran had been pretty fatally wounded and crippled by all the activity against it over the last year. Do you think it would have been a message from MBS to go ahead and do this?
I doubt it very much. The kingdom's leadership has consistently always held to their public positions in private sessions with other officials, including with Mr. Trump. And when the Crown Prince was in Washington, I'm sure they discussed all these issues, and he laid things bare on that issue. At that time, of course, the conflict in Iran had not yet started, but definitely it must have arisen in the discussions. And, American media seems to contradict itself. I think a couple of weeks ago, there were reports that Saudi Arabia was aligning itself with Iran against Israel. And now we see they're saying that Saudi Arabia is urging America to bomb Iran. So I think there is disinformation being spread, unfortunately, I think, by Israeli spokespeople or officials in order to show that it is not just Israel that has been urging America to take action against Iran.
I want to ask you about what appears to be some surprise in the region, maybe in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, some anger about the response by Iran. This is what President Trump said yesterday. Take a listen.
Amazingly, they're hitting countries that were, let's call them neutral, right? They lived together for a long time. I think they were surprised. I was surprised. I think and now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them.
From an intelligence point of view, I mean, Iran did basically say that it was going to hit out at these places that host, American bases and hold them responsible as well. Are you surprised at the extent of Iran's retaliation?
Well, I am surprised at the president's surprise. Respectfully, I would recall that the Crown Prince and other Gulf leaders have been urging America not to undertake military action against Iran because all of us believe that that action will not remain confined to Iran, that Iran will retaliate against American presence in the area, which is present in all of the Gulf states and as far away as Turkey, apparently. So if he was surprised, I don't think Saudi or other Gulf leaders were surprised. They've been warning the Americans not to undertake military action and suffer the consequences.
For a long time, Saudi leaders and other Arab leaders in the Gulf states have told their people that you're hosting American bases because it's in your interest, because it will protect you as well. Now you are being attacked, as Iran signaled you would be, and I don't see much defense coming to you all. Yes, defense to Israel, but do you feel you are being defended? Is hosting American bases a long-term viable situation anymore, do you think? Can you all trust America and its defensive posture for you?
Well, that's why I can talk about what I see is happening in Saudi Arabia. That's why Saudi Arabia has been trying to buttress and expand its military capabilities in order to be able to defend itself, and developing a military industry in the kingdom so that we don't have to go to the outside world like America or Europe to purchase weapons and so on. But we also work with our Gulf states partners in order to try to form some kind of common command, and that's been a long time coming, and I'm sure the present situation will hasten the formation of some kind of pan-Gulf defense command to protect the Gulf states. Mm-hmm. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in the last Trump administration, back in 2019, if you remember, we were bombed by Iranian missiles at that time. And Mr. Trump at the time did not offer any support at that time. So it is no surprise for the kingdom that he is not coming to our help, if you like, as far as I can see. I don't know what is happening on official circles, but definitely the whole issue of more bloodshed and more destruction is anathema to the kingdom.
I want to ask
you. The kingdom is on a course of social and industrial and commercial development, we want to continue on that route instead of having military conflicts in the area.
I want to ask you, because let's face it, Saudi Arabia is the guardian of the Sunni faith, called the guardian of the two holy mosques. Iran is pretty much the guardian of the Shia faith. There is a clash between you two. Do you believe that the assassination of the so-called supreme leader can collapse the regime, collapse the raison d'etre? Do you believe that it can eventually lead to the uprising of people in Iran? Because Trump has moved back from regime change.
Well, I would put it another way. You know, the kingdom has Shia citizens as well as Sunni citizens. Iran itself has Sunni citizens as well as Shia citizens. So I would not put it so starkly as a difference between Sunnah and Shia. But definitely, I don't think that the system in Iran will collapse anytime soon. As I said, the Iranian leadership has been preparing for an eventuality like this because of what they have continued to hear from Mr. Netanyahu in the past 40 years. He has been calling for the destruction of Iran, and so the Iranians obviously, took note of that and have been preparing themselves for such an eventuality. And as we see in the news already, they're in the process of electing a new so-called leader to succeed Khamenei. They've already set up an interim leadership of 3 personalities from the leadership. So the system, I think, the only way that the system will go, I think, it will be through the Iranian people. It is they, in the end, who will decide what is going to happen in their country. And, Mr. Murphy mentioned that, President Trump promised support for the uprising that took place, etc., and then he backed away. And then what I found very startling, of course, is that Mr. Murphy was saying that maybe they should put troops on the ground to help the uprising against the Ayatollahs. So even there, there is confusion on the American side as to what should be done.
Yeah, he didn't say put them. He said that's the only way it could because it's never happened from the air. But I want to ask you a final and quick question. People are saying that Israel stands to be the biggest winner out of all of this. Do you think that's the case? And do you think that it makes normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia any closer?
Well, forget normalization, let alone what Israel is doing in Gaza and the West Bank. This is Netanyahu's war. You talked about the dog and the tail, who's wagging who. It is definitely Mr. Netanyahu who, as you mentioned, 7 trips to America, and obviously he somehow convinced the president to support his views. And so Netanyahu has been trying to do this in order to get away from the murky and terrible conduct that he led Israel into, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank and internally. He wants to change the constitution of Israel to allow him to undertake whatever he wants to do without check. So that is why he has been pushing for this war, is to drive people's attention away from what is happening on the ground in Palestine. And as I said, there is that agenda of a greater Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates. So you can imagine what that entails.
All right. Always really important to have your perspective, Prince Turki Al-Faisal. Thank you very much for